would you welcome the beautiful Natalie Wood?
In November 1981, the life of a true Hollywood icon came to a tragic end during a booze-filled weekend aboard her family yacht. The other players involved were her TV star husband, an A-list actor friend, and the boat's captain. Over the course of 40 years, the true story of what went on during that fateful voyage has never been revealed. Until now. That's today on Death in Entertainment.
Live from Los Angeles.
911, what is your emergency?
Here in Hollywood now.
2 counts of murder,
Injury and death.
Oh my God!
Shocking new details.
that has stunned the entertainment world.
This makes me a little nervous.
The hair stood up on my arms.
Just like in the movies.
What do you call this thing anyway?
Death
In entertainment.
Welcome, everybody.
Hey-o.
What's up? Are you feeling okay there, Mark?
I don't know. I'm just coughing up a little bit here. This air in Hollywood's been terrible lately.
All right, yeah. Cover your mouth, please.
I'm just coughing directly into the microphone. Is
Cough
that okay?
directly into his mouth.
Into the mouth. Oh, okay. I'm coming over there, Alejandro. Hold on.
So this is November 29th, 40 years
To the day.
to the day
To the minute.
of our subject's demise.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that incredible? We
It's
didn't
crazy.
even plan it that way.
No.
I
we did
just
not.
happened to notice that Monday, November 29th,
Yeah.
2021, is 40 years.
We're not doing some long con here where we set up a podcast with 13 before and then
to hit the Natalie Wood one
the
right on the
Natalie- yeah.
right on the head,
right on the head. To the second.
which is what happened to her, it sounds like.
Well, I don't know. What happened to her?
We don't know. We'll find out.
Perhaps.
What if we just opened up the podcast, said what happened to her, and just logged off?
Good night.
Good night, ladies and gentlemen.
So we're here another week. My name is Kyle Ploof,
My name is Mark Mulkerron.
And I'm Alejandro Dowling.
and this episode is taking us all the way back to November 29th, 1981.
Ooh.
And here we are with this week's Pop Culture Flash, November 1981. Movies. Number 3, Arthur, the original Arthur.
The original starred Dudley Moore,
Yeah.
who became an unlikely box office superstar.
In the 80s, yeah. He
with
had like a
this
resurgence.
this movie,
Well, yeah.
he had done a movie called 10, the one with the Tommy
Bo
Boy
Derek?
parodies, with Bo Derek coming out of the water in the swimsuit.
Do you know that joke that I never got until I realized she was in that movie in which Chris Farley, when she gets out of the pool, he goes, "Dad, she's like a 10."
Yeah, because of the movie 10.
I didn't
Yeah.
get that till you just explained it to me.
Yeah. She had the cornrows in that movie, too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that may not be so
Yeah,
accepted
little
today.
cultural appropriation. We'll talk more about that later, by the way.
So that made a ton of money, and Arthur made a ton of money, even more than 10.
Like a
Yeah.
good 80s mid-movie, lot of money, or are we talking like
No, we're talking, it was
like Jurassic Park money?
adjusted for inflation. We're talking pretty close to Jurassic Park money.
Get
Yeah,
the
because
fuck out
this
of
is
here.
playing Thanksgiving week of 1981. It came out in July, so it's been playing for months.
I
Okay.
kid you not, it was one of the top box office earners of 1981.
Wow. I didn't know Dudley Moore had that much dough.
Yeah.
Wow. Number 2 is very familiar to us all, Raiders of the Lost Ark. This is another one that was released in the summer and was still playing.
Really?
Yeah, so these ones were just crushing.
The other huge hit of 1981.
Number 1, Time Bandits.
Oh, Terry Gilliam. Yeah.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Okay.
You didn't say pinch poke.
I'll give you an 8-ball of Coke.
Hey.
Oh
Well,
my-
it's the
Can I have
80s.
that?
It's the 80s. Everyone's doing Coke. Everyone's getting fucking lit up.
Woo!
Woo!
Okay.
Who the fuck knows
Scarface.
anything about
Ooh, Scarface.
Ooh, Time Bandits. Stealing that time.
I'm doing Farnsworth Bentley as Pacino now. I don't even know how to do Al Pacino anymore. Ooh, I said.
Yeah, that's more.
Foghorn Leghorn.
Yes, I was looking
What did
for
I
that
say?
name.
Farnsworth Bentley?
Yeah.
Oh, Foghorn Leghorn. Yeah. I
I mean,
always get that
Farnsworth
wrong.
I
Bentley
say.
is not a
Who is
real
that?
character. You're thinking of Richard Farnsworth from The Straight Story.
Or maybe I'm not. I'm guys. I'm coming off a bad sickness, so I'm trying to get my head right still.
Okay. Let's get this back on track.
Music. Number 3, Waiting for a Girl Like You by Foreigner.
I've been waiting.
Oh yeah.
That's it?
You were supposed to sing the rest.
I don't know if I know it.
Did you guys had an established duo you were gonna do?
This isn't
here?
a Limp Bizkit
duet,
song.
if you will.
Okay, I said I've been waiting, and the song is called Waiting for a Girl Like You. What do you think the next line is, Kyle?
But how do I sing it?
For a girl like you.
Oh, I never knew that's what they said.
What'd you
So I
think
do know
they
that
said?
song. I've been waiting. Oh, you didn't even do it like that. Now I get it.
I'm a little
Like a
gun
girl
shy.
like you. We got number 2, Private Eyes by Hall & Oates.
It sounds like the same song that you were just singing. Every song this year is in the same
I'm
cadence.
watching you.
Number 1 doesn't really sound the same as these. Olivia Newton-John's Physical.
Olivia.
What did I say?
Olivia.
No, I think he said.
I think I said
You
Olivia.
said Olivia.
We're going to check the
you
tape
are
on
digging for these mispronunciations. You had a couple hot ones, and now you're just kind of like reaching for them.
that. Olivia Newton-John's Physical.
I think that was the biggest song of that year. It was
One of the
number
biggest songs of
one.
the decade.
Yeah, it was number one forever.
I remember her in a leotard singing this.
Physical, I wanna get physical, and it goes like that for 3 minutes.
Yeah, not a lot to it.
On
Not
a
a lot
loop.
of not a lot of meat in that song.
No. Top book.
Was that some kind of innuendo?
No innuendo at all. I'm just saying it wasn't a lot of meat, not a lot of poultry going on. in
Yeah,
that
a lot
one.
of meat.
The poultry is so lean. Why couldn't it be in that song?
There's no pork chop in there, if you know what I mean.
Okay, I'm really lost as to what Mark is talking about.
Mark is high off the Robitussin.
Yeah.
Believe me, audience, I don't get it either. So please do not change the channel.
Top book at the time, The Cinderella Complex, Women's Hidden Fear of Independence by Colette Dowling.
I just want to point out.
Alejandro's mom.
Yeah, that's my mommy. No, actually, Colette Dowling, no relation.
Okay.
I don't think. Maybe she disowned me,
Yeah.
my great aunt.
Yeah, she sold you maybe.
Yeah.
And this book, the Cinderella Complex, it's very much of the 80s of its time. It's this theory that women were often forced into the role of Cinderella, where they can't really do anything without their handsome prince to help them out.
They're just in the kitchen. That's all they
Yeah,
can do.
they cook, they clean,
Yeah.
and this book is pretty relevant to today's subject.
Oh, okay.
Might I tease?
Tease no
Alejandro
more.
really delved into this one. Digging in deep. Let's go. Okay, here we go. Let's get down to the nitty grit right here, guys.
Let's do it.
Miss
Grit, not gritty.
Nitty grit.
The nitty grit.
That's the thing?
Yeah.
It is
Okay,
now.
I'm not. Keep going.
Just let it slide, okay?
Okay. The nitty grit.
So Miss Natalie Wood, not born Miss Natalie Wood.
Ooh.
Surprisingly, yeah. Her real name was actually Natasha Zacharenko.
Wow.
I wonder why she changed that one.
That's a shutarenko.
Yeah.
Russian.
Yeah, I can picture people in like Kansas saying, "Hey, we're gonna go see that new Natasha Nasharenko in 1955 or anything."
Yeah, if she's not putting on figure skates, they're not going.
Yeah,
It sounds like a Bond villain.
yeah,
Yeah.
it does kinda. Born in 1938 in San Francisco, United States, California.
Okay, great.
She was born to Russian immigrant parents.
Yeah.
I guess her dad was like a normal, kind of pretty chill, quiet guy who just went to his job and had a nice life and didn't really get involved in drama. The mom was a basket case.
The dad was an alcoholic, though.
Oh, okay. So he just kind of checked out,
Yeah.
maybe smartly in this scenario.
Yes.
And just got hammered and kind of let the rest of the family do whatever they wanted to do.
Yeah.
And her mom is Maria Gerdan.
Yeah, I think it was Maria. I think you're correct there.
Yeah, it is.
So she's very much a Svengali-like figure for Natalie.
Yeah. She put a lot of stuff in her daughter's brain, let's say that.
Yes.
The superstitious stuff. Like I remember in the documentary it said, "Don't walk on the bright side of the sidewalk because you'll get run over and killed or something."
Oh yeah.
A lot of weird superstitious stuff. You know,
Yeah.
like, you know.
Absolutely. And Maria was told by a fortune teller that Natalie was going to die in dark water.
Yes.
And
yes, I
this
remember that.
was the seed in Natalie's head that made her deathly afraid of water her entire life.
Yeah.
Dark water specifically.
So let me see. She had one sister named Lana, who later on went by the name Wood, but I guess her real name would have been Zacharenko.
Yeah.
So Lana, I assume that's actually her real first name. She went by Wood also.
And the mom gave them the surname Wood to use?
Well, what happened was, I guess when Natalie or Natasha started acting, the RKO studio, the executives there said, "Okay, yeah, we'll work with her. We'll give her a deal as a child actor when she was like 4 or 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the linchpins is we're gonna rename her Natalie Wood."
Oh, so it was their idea.
It was their idea, yeah.
Wood was taken from an actor at the time, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Her first name was based on her childhood nickname, Natalia, and her last name was in reference to director Sam Wood, big director at the time.
So what happened, as the story goes, they moved from San Francisco to a town called Santa Rosa, right outside of San Francisco.
Yes.
Okay.
As the story goes, as legend says, a movie was shooting in that hometown there, and all of a sudden this director named Irvin Pinchel came on set. They were looking for like a little kid to film like one specific small role. That was in the documentary.
Yes.
She dropped an ice cream
That's
cone
right.
Yeah.
at the end of it.
The documentary made by
her daughter actually named Natasha Gregson. What's her
Gregson
Gregson.
Wagner.
Yeah. There's a new pronunciation of the last name though. I don't know if anyone caught that.
Wagner?
Natasha, let me see. here.
Wagner.
No, Natasha Gregson Wagnerova.
Oh, I saw that.
I did see that. I didn't
on
understand what that
Google.
was.
I thought it was a prank.
No, it was. Believe it might have been even in the documentary.
I don't know what the fuck
Let's
that
just
even
go
means.
with Wagner.
Okay, we'll stick with Wagner for now. Anyway.
So she made a documentary called Natalie Wood, What Remains Behind.
Yeah.
About her mom.
And just to give some background, this is the actress, the daughter of Natalie Wood, who is the actress who was in High Fidelity, Lost Highway,
Two Girls and a Guy.
Two Girls and a Guy with Robert Downey Jr. and
Urban Legend.
yeah,
Starring Rebecca Gayheart, a future
Yeah.
subject.
future vehicular murderer that we'll talk about later on in the series.
All right, continue.
So in this movie, I guess the movie was called Happy Land, that was directing in Santa Rosa. So Natasha, as she was going by, she got this small role with Irvin Pinchel, who worked for, I believe it was RKO Studios. So he goes back to Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
This guy seems like a creep to me, to be honest.
Pitchell?
Yeah, Pinchel.
Okay.
He writes the parents that he wants her to move down, I think by herself, the 4-year-old
That checks out.
Natalie. Yeah. What happens is Pitchell wants him to go down there to do the screen test and kind of he's like, I'll help you out becoming a child star and stuff when she's like 4 or 5 years old. The dad is like, no way. Like, I want to stick with my job up here. I want to stay in Santa Rosa. It's a nice, like, small American town.
Mhm.
He's like, I kind of like the quietness of this. The mom, however, is like, we're leaving tomorrow. The mom is like, I got a fire in my belly for my daughter to become a star and me to be the lunatic mom.
Yeah.
That kind of
She very much pushed her into acting.
pushed her big time. Yeah. Well, she pushed her even to bother that guy, Irvin Pinchel. They were just,
that's right.
They were just downtown and the mom's like, go do some songs for this man.
Yeah.
So she was able to win this guy over, but it was clearly the mom that's, you know, the crazy Hollywood mom that's pushing her behind the scenes.
Kind of like Sharon Murphy.
Yes. You know what? I saw the parallels actually from the Brittany Murphy story.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is I think Natalie kind of got what she wanted, what Brittany was going for, which is a family,
Yeah.
normal-ish husband.
Both toxic, too.
Both toxic, yeah. Just wound up with shitty guys that may have led to their downfall.
Yeah.
So once they got to Hollywood, Natalie started working and getting roles like right away. Miracle on 34th Street, and she got a role opposite Orson Welles in a movie called Tomorrow is Forever.
The holiday season is sort of upon us, and you just
gloss over
Miracle on 34th Street.
Yeah.
Never realized that was her.
She pulls
In
the
the original.
beard
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah.
She does.
That classic moment.
She's great in that.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so after she does all this kind of like kid movie stuff, she graduates and she transitions successfully her career into doing more adult roles like Rebel Without a Cause.
Teenage roles.
Yeah, teenage, but more serious.
Yes.
And not just kind of fluffy kid stuff.
Right.
She became like part of the bigger like studio system. She was in a movie called West Side Story. She played actually a Puerto Rican woman in that, which is kind of racy these days, but I guess it was kind of normal back then.
Maria.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that wouldn't happen today.
Do we have that clip from her in Rebel Without a Cause?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
He looks at me like I was the ugliest thing in the world. He doesn't like my friends. He doesn't like one thing about me. He called me a dirty tramp. My own father.
Do you think your father really means that?
Yes. No. I don't know. I mean, maybe he doesn't mean it, but he acts like he does.
God.
Well, some would say
That
she's channeling her true real life experiences,
Yeah.
which maybe her dad or mom were calling her a tramp.
I read that she didn't do method acting, but she was very much involved in Freudian analysis through her life.
Yeah.
And then she used these demons as an acting tool.
Oh, boy. Well,
Anyway, it's a classic movie. It's not my favorite movie by any means, but James Dean exploded as a cultural icon.
Yeah.
Literally.
After this. Yeah, and then exploded in a car wreck.
Which then killed a bunch of other people, the parts of the car. I don't know if that's an urban legend or not.
That's an urban legend.
Oh.
What, so parts of the car went to other people?
Other cars, and it just kept happening over and over.
It's like a Frankenstein monster that just went to other things that just spread out.
This tire we put on this car.
Yeah. It was like Christine.
Yeah, exactly.
And while we're on Rebel Without a Cause, the director was a guy named Nicholas Ray, who was in his 40s at the time.
Oh, yeah, I saw this.
And he had a sexual relationship with Natalie Wood, who was only 16.
Yeah. Did that happen before or after the movie? Or during?
During.
During, okay.
Yeah.
So, like, did he proposition her in any way? Like, that's what, in the documentary, you might see that there is a interview in which Natalie Wood is pressed, like, have you ever done anything to get any roles, basically, that you kind of regret or, you know, you should have been asked to do? And she thought about it for a moment. She goes, no. Do you know, did you remember that part?
Yeah.
When I was 15 years old and doing Rebel Without a Cause, at that time, the director and the studios and so forth said I was too young, even though I was exactly the right age. They were sort of testing older girls, and they also saw me in pigtails with a pinafore, because those were the kind of parts that I was associated with. So I tested for it a number of times, as a matter of fact.
Well, it's all right now. You're our baby now.
I think I also got into a car accident, and instead of telling them to call my parents, I told them to call the director, because one of the policemen called me a juvenile delinquent. And I said, oh, well, then that must mean that I have the part. Call Nick Ray.
At no time did any of the gentlemen who were considered your bosses, did they ever ask you to do something that might be considered immoral?
No.
So, yeah, she got married to Robert Wagner when she was 19 in Scottsdale, Arizona. Apparently, as the story goes, when she was 5, at Warner Brothers casting session, she pointed to Robert and said to her mom that she was going to marry him someday. He was 18 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And he pointed back to this 5-year-old and said, okay. No, that part is not true. So they had this fairy tale wedding, apparently, but they divorced 5 years later in 1962.
And I have some insight into their divorce. She made this movie called Splendor in the Grass. Elia Kazan, beautiful movie. This was Warren Beatty's first film.
Ah, yes.
I mean, you know Warren Beatty. He was, I don't know if womanizer is the right term.
Oh, okay. He's a fuckhound.
Yes, there you go. A legendary one.
Yeah.
And he pretty much slept with every willing actress in Hollywood.
Oh, really?
And so there were rumors swirling in Hollywood about them, mainly by the studios and market tabloids.
Yeah.
That sort of
They
thing.
got to talking like the Danny DeVito from LA Confidential guy, the hush hush.
Yeah. And so Robert Wagner went to the set and he was furious. And this is the spark that led to their divorce.
Well, I saw in the documentary, he's like, I want to make it clear it wasn't because she was doing a lot better than me in her career, and I was doing horribly.
Yeah.
It made it seem like he's a perfect guy that didn't really have any issues, and they just got divorced because she was cheating on him.
And that, I think I can clear up. What I read by the biographer Suzanne Finstead. She wrote Natalie Wood, The Complete Biography, released in 2001 and then updated last year. According to her, they didn't have an affair and that Natalie took the blame for their marriage crumbling in the press. She didn't correct any of the tabloids.
Yeah. So they get divorced. Apparently, Robert Wagner, when he was not with Natalie Wood, he got engaged to Tina Sinatra. And Natalie Wood was also dating Frank Sinatra.
Wow. Yeah, I read that.
Yeah.
Although I also read that Natalie Wood was basically pimped out to Frank Sinatra when she was 15.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
You seeing a pattern here?
Yeah.
A little bit.
Well, the first time after the divorce between Natalie and Daddy Wagner, as I call him, he got remarried to a woman named Marion Marshall, who he had a daughter with. He divorced Marion in 1970. Natalie eventually got remarried herself to British producer Richard Gregson, and they had a daughter the following year in 1970, Natasha, who, in my opinion, is a basket case, and created this HBO documentary. They divorced a year later. It seemed like under severe pressure, he admitted to banging Natalie's assistant.
I just want to add that Robert Wagner, you mentioned he was married to Marion Marshall.
Yeah.
Her full name is Marion Marshall Donnan, and she's the former wife of director Stanley Donnan, who did Singing in the Rain. Her kids from that marriage became very close with the Wagner family, and they're in the documentary too.
Oh, okay.
The Donnan stepsons.
Yeah.
They were there for all the holidays and...
This like the Carradine family. There's like so many people, kind of new family members, old family members.
Yeah.
So in that period of time between the divorce of Natalie Wood and him being married to this Marion, he had one other kid named Katie.
Katie.
Yeah.
And then Gregson, as you mentioned, she has Natasha Gregson Wagner.
Yeah. Or whatever she's called her, whatever she's called herself. That's a whole other fucking craziness.
She adopts Daddy Wagner as her daddy too.
Yeah.
And she also calls her real dad Daddy Gregson.
Yeah.
Apparently Natalie started that.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out that friends and acquaintances of Robert Wagner called him RJ.
Yeah, yeah.
And then his family called him Daddy.
Yeah, he's got a smorgasbord of names. Yeah, Daddy Wagner, RJ.
Daddy Wagner over.
Yeah. It actually came out later, somewhat even recently, I think, that Natalie may have been the victim of a rape when she was a teenager at the Chateau Marmont in 1955 by a famous actor, Kirk Douglas.
Oh.
This was actually released recently, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was... In the biography by Suzanne Finstead, the event is mentioned, but the actor is not named. And then her younger sister, Lana, she's written a couple of books, but she has a new book out now called Little Sister, and she brings up that allegation and names his name in it.
Oh, she does. That's how it came out. Okay.
Yes.
So it actually got more traction recently when Kirk Douglas died, and he was recognized in the Golden Globes in memoriam. So some people were thinking, maybe he shouldn't be recognized like that.
Yeah.
It's a tough one because his image had always been clean cut and that he was this nice Hollywood icon.
He died at like 103. Yeah.
Yeah. And so one thing that's interesting is the Douglas family has stayed pretty silent about commenting on it.
Yeah.
They don't have any fighting response to it.
Well, Michael's too busy getting, throat cancer from going down on girls. So, how do you fit it in?
Yeah, good point.
He's got his hands full. He's got his mouth full.
Yes. The only word from the Douglas family is from Michael's publicist, who said, quote, "May they both rest in peace," about Natalie and Kirk.
Oh, really? Well, at least she said something.
Wish I could talk about it, but my mouth's full.
I'm going down on what's her name? Catherine Zeta. He forgets her name as he's going down on her.
What's my wife's name?
What's her name? Hey, I don't want to get up and to ask, but what's her name?
I haven't seen her face in 10 years.
I've just seen her. You know what?
I guess we're done with the Chateau Marmont event.
We've moved on, but so anyway, later career. So in the 1960s, her career peaks. She does movies called Gypsy, Love with the Proper Stranger, Sex with a Single Girl, and The Great Race with Jack Lemmon.
And she did this movie called Bob and Carol and Ted and Alice.
Yes, I forgot to mention that. The Elliot Gould movie.
Yes, and Paul Mazursky directed.
Yeah.
And that became part of the zeitgeist at the time.
Yeah.
One of those
It's a swinger
late
movies.
60s, early 70s classic movies.
Prime Natalie Wood right here, in her prime.
You're playing games with me.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are. Playing games. Playing an emancipated woman, a hip chick that doesn't care what her husband does.
I care very much what you do.
You don't care what I do. That's perfectly obvious. Otherwise, you wouldn't be sitting there on top of a volcano that wants to spew out of you, and you won't let it do
Do
it.
you know what you're doing? You are trying to make me react again. You feel guilty, and you're trying to make me punish you.
Terrible thing. I cheated.
Here's a toast to Bob and Carol and Ted.
That's a good. I'll drink hats and horns.
Of the grooviest people I've ever known.
So yeah, at this time she was getting top billing under the studio system in which she was under contract.
Yeah.
She decided at that point she wanted more freedom. She wanted to have a family. She wanted to do whatever the fuck she wanted.
Yeah.
So she bought out her own Warner Brothers contract for $130K.
Damn.
So I guess you could just do that. Anyway, I have one more fact here.
Go ahead.
In between all of this, while they were divorced and before she got back with Daddy Wagner, apparently Natalie had a steamy on-again, off-again relationship with Jerry Brown, the governor of California, who was our last governor of California before our current one. So yeah, in 1972, Natalie and Daddy Wagner are back, and they had one more daughter named Courtney.
And we have a clip of her from 1980 talking on the Tom Snyder show about remarrying Robert Wagner.
Okay.
You know, I've always wanted to ask you this. I was going to save it, but I'm going to. How come you got married to Bob Wagner again?
Again?
I mean, and how does it feel when
Why
you
would you
marry
do
your
something
husband
stupid
after
like
you
that?
What's Daddy Wagner got that
And if
I
you don't
don't
want to
got?
talk about it,
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it feels terrific. I don't mind talking about
Okay.
it. I was just fortunate, you know. Timing was on our side. We happened to meet at a
Rolling
time we were
Stones.
both free. The fact that we both had feelings toward the other one, we didn't keep to ourselves. I mean, we managed to convey
had
that
feelings,
because
all
I really
right.
had no idea that RJ felt something still toward me, even though I knew that I did, and he felt the same way and didn't know if I did. But luckily, we didn't keep that to ourselves, and so, you know, like that. A lot of life is chance.
That's true.
Ain't that the truth?
So she had a bit of a resurgence after her kids are born, and she kind of feels more happy in her life, and she's, you know, going back to work a little bit. She got a movie called Brainstorm with Christopher Walken, actually. And then she had a bunch of TV lined up, but then something happened.
Oh, are we there already?
We're there already.
Pum, pum, pum.
A couple of things I want to add.
Okay.
We talked about the alleged affair between Warren Beatty and Natalie Wood.
Yeah.
Another thing that happened around this time, according to the Finstead biography, she spoke with 3 close friends of Natalie's and Natalie's mom's best friend and Lana, her sister. And they all say Natalie came home one day in the 50s and found Robert in flagrante with another man.
Wait, what does in flagrante mean?
They were doing it.
Why did you say in flagrante?
I've never heard in flagrante in my life.
That's the quote from the book.
In flagrante delicto.
Kyle,
Can
tell
I get
us.
the in flagrante on the side, actually?
In flagrante delicto sometimes means it's a legal term used to indicate a criminal has been caught. Oh, okay. So, yeah, that kind of makes sense. They were caught in the act.
So that's at their Beverly Hills mansion, and it led to a hysterical episode that ended with Natalie overdosing on sleeping pills.
Wait,
Sounds
so
hilarious.
she caught Daddy Wagner fucking some guy
Yes.
in Flagrante.
Do we know who the guy is?
We don't.
Ooh.
He could have been just, you know.
Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, he
Getting
came back.
revenge.
Yeah.
So, that might have contributed to the dissolution of the first marriage as well.
Yeah. But how do you go back after that?
Yeah.
That to me is crazy.
You can't put the Inflagrante back in the tube.
You cannot.
After it's out. You
Yeah.
know?
Famously.
She may have kept it in her back pocket for a rainy day.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's right, too.
For a rainy weekend, I should say.
Oh.
Is that Inflagrante in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
You also mentioned that Robert made a point to say in the documentary that none of their troubles stemmed from competing careers.
Allegedly.
The truth is, though, in the 1950s and 60s, she was a big upcoming actress working with the best directors.
Yeah.
And he was doing crappy movies.
Yeah, he was like a nobody.
Nobody.
Yeah.
And then he got some roles later on that
Yeah.
established him. And then he later went to TV big time.
Yeah.
And so then in the 70s, when she was coming down, that's when he was coming up in TV,
Yeah.
notably on a show called Heart to Heart.
He looked like just like a suit and a haircut. Like he didn't look like he had a lot of talent or brains going on behind there.
Tell us how you really feel.
He was great in Austin Powers. That was like my favorite role of his.
That's what most people would know him from,
Yeah.
I believe. So Heart to Heart was an American mystery TV series that premiered in 1979 and ran for 5 seasons.
You're making some premium money then. If you're on a major network
Yes.
at this time, you're making fucking bank and you're like the
Yeah.
primary star.
Another thing that made Robert Wagner insanely rich was that he had a production company and he made a deal with Aaron Spelling
Oh boy.
and got half of all the profits of Charlie's Angels.
Oh
The
shit.
TV series.
Yeah, that was a big one.
So he's
Forget about it.
very famous, very rich from this. And
Yeah.
she's assuming the more stay-at-home mom role, which also made her happy,
Yeah.
but she was missing the acting. And so that's, as you mentioned, was why she started trickling back into the movies
Yeah. And TV.
and TV.
Yeah.
So this is where Natalie Wood is at this time.
Kind of hanging back, but she's getting back into it.
And we were talking about her fear of water, but yet she went by the water so many times in her life. When they got married again in the early 70s,
They got married on the boat.
they got married on the boat. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so you got this family that's fascinated with the water, and you have a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so in 1975, they bought this yacht that was called the Challenger.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. Oh, well,
Yeah.
that hasn't happened yet. So,
Yeah, it's about 5 years away.
Yeah.
And apparently it's bad luck to rename boats, but they didn't care and they renamed it Splendor after a Wordsworth poem that was featured in the movies Splendor in the Grass.
Okay.
So on this yacht, which is now named Splendor, it is large. It has 4 staterooms, a full deck, and then handrails all around. So it very much felt like a cruise ship.
Mm.
He paid $125K for it.
That's like nothing to them.
Yeah, that seems
Even
very
with
low.
inflation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a bit underpowered, but nobody cared because you could just float at 10 miles an hour and everyone was happy.
Yeah.
Because they just like to be out there on the water.
Well, they were just going at the most to Catalina and stuff, right? They weren't going to
Yeah, exactly.
Australia in the boat, you know.
Catalina, that's an island near Los Angeles,
Yep.
off the coast,
Yep.
in the Pacific Ocean.
I've been there. It's nice.
And so when they got this boat, they hired the man who had brought it to them from Florida to serve as the captain.
Captain, my captain.
His name is Dennis de Verne. And Dennis, the captain, recalled being impressed that they had outings with the kids every other weekend.
They want to get every penny out of this
Yeah,
boat.
we're putting this guy to work.
yeah. If we're gonna buy this captain, he's like a babysitter. He's a captain. You cleaning up
Doing
the place.
balloons.
He's cooking. Yeah, doing balloons.
And according to Captain Dennis, they
Dennis.
all partied on the yacht. And these parties involved Quaaludes, Valium, and booze.
Ooh, this sounds
The
like
Whiteys.
fun. The
Yeah.
Whiteys are back.
They had their fun.
Yes.
And that brings us to 1981. We're all caught up.
We're caught up.
Are you all ready to dive into this story?
Let's get Inflagrante with it.
Are you really ready to die into this story?
Hello!
Whoa!
Oh my God. Did you take any Quaaludes before this, Mark?
I had to get through this.
So, among the many sources that I turned to are the following books: Natalie Wood, The Complete Biography, and then Natalie Wood, A Life by Gavin Lambert. And Dennis DeVerne has one called Goodbye Natalie, Goodbye Splendor in 2014. And Lana Wood, her sister, 2 memoirs, one in 1984 and then one this year, 2021, called Little Sister.
Looney Lana.
And then other books, Robert Wagner wrote several books, including one.
Does he implicate himself?
If I did it.
Yeah. If I did it, here's how I would have pushed her.
Yeah.
And I'd have my daughter do a documentary in 2021.
One where he tells his side of the story about that night called Hart to Hart, but not spelled like the show. The show was Hart, because that's the character
So
name.
he's banking off
and this
the
one was Hart,
popularity of his show.
Heart.
Oh, God.
To Hart.
Jesus Christ.
And then there's a book by Natasha Gregson Wagner, who was involved in the HBO doc. And this book coincided with the doc, called More Than Love, an intimate portrait of my mother, Natalie Wood. And it doesn't stop there. There was a driver for the mortuary that drove Natalie Wood's body from the
And I
mortuary
got a story to tell you.
to the funeral home.
Oh, my God.
And he wrote a book called Natalie.
Wait, what?
Yes,
He
everybody.
was employed for like 5 minutes for the family. And he's got a book.
We can write a book about Natalie after this.
I think we should.
And then there's
It's like a whole economy on its own.
Yeah.
It's
Yes,
insane.
it is. It actually is.
It's 10% of the U.S. economy is Natalie Wood books.
And so, yeah, let's get into it. You mentioned Brainstorm.
Yeah, Brainstorm, the movie that they were doing at the time with Christopher Walken. Some would say he's kind of a loony guy. He's kind of out there.
Yeah, and Christopher Walken at that moment is very hot in Hollywood.
What's he hot of?
The Deer Hunter.
The
He
Deer
won
Hunter, that's right.
The Best Supporting Actor Oscar.
Yeah.
And he's one of those, like De Niro type, fearless,
Kind of
young
yeah.
actors.
A lot of mystery going on about him. Like, what's this guy? He looks kind of like a wild card.
And great performances as well.
Yeah. Wow. Great.
Wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, it's starting.
It's starting.
The Walken impressions.
Kevin Pollak's here. Wow.
And then we got Jay Moore here too.
Yeah.
The plot for Brainstorm, it's a sci-fi movie. Researchers develop this system where they can jump into people's minds, that sort of thing.
Sounds like a hunk of shit, if you ask me.
And it wasn't finished when Natalie died. The executives wanted to kill the project and claim the insurance, but the director, a guy named
Douglas Trumbull,
apparently was in his contract. It was up to him to finish the movie or not. And of course, he wants to finish it. The movie was eventually released in 1983 to mixed reviews, forgotten, if not for being Natalie Wood's last movie.
You never know if they're going to be like the biggest explosive movie like The Crow or like Brainstorming or whatever this is.
Brainstorm.
Yeah.
So this was his last studio movie. He didn't work for the studios again. And he went on to direct whatever he could get.
Yeah.
Yeah, including Back to the Future.
Wow.
The ride.
That's a great ride.
I was about to say, like, what was that?
Yeah.
Robert Zemeckis?
I guess I'm a fan.
That was an amazing
They
ride.
get directors for a ride?
I guess so.
Well, he had fallen
That far, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also like The Crow, Brainstorm was shot in North Carolina.
Whoa, tax credits.
Holy shit.
Connecting all the dots
All the
here.
dots, yeah.
So after they were finished filming in North Carolina, there were interior shots to do in Los Angeles. And so Natalie Wood returned to Los Angeles and Christopher Walken went with her.
Oh, I'm coming.
What a mysterious guy. Apparently he had this wife named Georgianne.
Wow.
They were married in 1969.
What?
Yeah. They're still married.
Oh, so he's married throughout this entire fucking thing.
Wow.
I'm attached.
And she was on the set of Brainstorm, according to reports.
But she wasn't on the boat, though.
No.
Okay.
She did not go to Los Angeles.
Was he living in New York? Because in
Yeah.
the documentary, it's like, oh, yeah, he's not living in L.A. during this time.
Yeah. So he joined the Woods and Wagners for Thanksgiving.
Daddy Wagner.
The family celebrated Thanksgiving with friends at their Beverly Hills home on Cannon Drive. And among the guests at the Thanksgiving party was a playwright and screenwriter named Mart Crowley. And he's famous for the movie and play The Boys in the Band. Crowley also produced Heart to Heart, the Robert Wagner show.
Yeah.
So he was a friend of the family and very much profiting from being a friend of the family.
I noticed they had a lot of friends of the family, people that just kind of hung around in their sphere.
Yeah.
You know, people that just kind of continually bring around a lot.
Yeah.
It was like the Burt Reynolds crew from Boogie Nights. Just a lot of people, just kind of weird characters.
And everyone wanted in.
Yeah.
And so Natalie invited Mart, the playwright, to join them on the yacht that weekend. And also invited was their secretary, Peggy Griffin. But both of them declined, citing that they had a lot of work that weekend and no thanks.
Yeah.
Crowley said this in the documentary too, that there was a lot of drama around Robert and Natalie at this time, and he wanted nothing to do with it. So that's really why he declined.
Some couple was like, yeah, we want you to come and witness us getting huge fights for an entire weekend. Like, who the fuck wants to do that?
And anybody that knew these two declined.
They knew what was going on.
So the new guy, Walken, he's the only one that accepts the invitation.
Sounds great.
Yeah.
How could this go wrong?
Yeah. I should mention that there's rumors about Walken and Wood now going on, that they had a romantic fling on the set of Brainstorm.
Where is this coming from? Like who?
Well, because the
bedroom.
They get together in the movie itself.
Yeah.
But there's a strange part in the documentary where that Trumbull guy, the director, who directed Back to the Future, The Ride as well, he said that, I heard the rumors about Natalie and Christopher, and I just have to set the record straight because they didn't have any chemistry on the set of Brainstorm. So it would be impossible that they ever got together in real life.
That was weird about the documentary too. Like, why do they feel the need to jam this in there?
Oh, it was totally jammed in.
It was jammed in.
Almost like it was paid per word to convince the audience that no funny business happened between Walken and Wood.
Yeah. Like, he got his lines like, okay, this is where you tell people that there was no chemistry between Christopher and Natalie. Okay, let's roll.
Yeah. And so that's the backdrop to this Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah.
Is this tension between Walken and Wood and Wagner.
It's like Polanski's Knife in the Water.
Walken, Wood, and Wagner.
Right. All W's.
A lot of dubs.
Yeah, a lot of dubs. Yeah.
Does that mean anything? 3 W's.
The World Wide Web.
Yeah.
The internet did it.
What's the Trump thing? WWW1. Like, what is
QAnon.
QAnon. Yeah.
That's really what you were thinking of?
Yeah.
First shot out of the bucket. I got it. So going on the yacht is Walken, Wood, Wagner, and then Captain Dennis.
Dennis Davern.
Yep.
Double D.
This Thanksgiving weekend, unfortunately, was gray, windy, and cold. Yeah. But they decided to take this trip anyway.
Yeah.
And it's without the kids. They're all back at the house. With what was the name of that housekeeper that they revered in the documentary?
Manny Faye?
Willie Mae Worthen?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
So Willie Mae and others are taking care of the kids this weekend.
Yeah.
Natalie wants to throw down. So they anchor the yacht. Remember the name?
Well, not the Challenger.
Splendor.
Splendor, yeah.
With a U. They anchor it off of Avalon, which is the main town in Catalina.
Yeah, it's nice there. A lot of boats out there.
And so on Friday, November 27th, the party left around noon to head out on the yacht. They get out there and then they went ashore for drinks and shopping.
So they go out, they leave the California coast.
They leave the coast.
And then they go to Catalina. And
they go to Avalon.
They go to Avalon, dock there, and then go in for shopping and dinner and drinks and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's part of Catalina.
Yeah.
Hammered.
Avalon.
Yeah, these people don't have a casual evening cocktail.
No.
I'll get this out of the way right now. They were drinking round the clock.
Yeah.
Wine, beer, whatever. They needed to have a drink in their hand.
What did Daddy Wagner, what was his drink of choice? Whatever's
was saying in the
in front of him.
documentary, it was wine.
Wine.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
He's drinking straight whiskey.
And Quaaludes.
Pills. Yeah.
So apparently Natalie and Chris Topher
a man who looks like the devil.
He does. Yeah, he looks like he's got horns a little bit.
Yeah.
That kind of go up, and he looks like he's asleep sometimes or dead.
Yeah. He hasn't had a pulse
Yeah.
in 50 years.
He looks like he's in like a coffin or something.
Yeah.
And he belongs there. That's where he sleeps. Sleep in a coffin.
Upside down.
Upside down.
And we know the backdrop is this movie Brainstorm, and that Natalie Wood basically, she was enamored with Walken as an actor.
Was he that good? Like, he was good in Deer Hunter, I guess, but everything else I see him as like kind of half there and half just like a prop.
He's great in Pulp Fiction.
He is great in Pulp Fiction. Okay.
He has a presence.
Yeah, he does. I'm back on track now. You mentioned the Pulp Fiction thing.
Then there's these rumors, and with all that going on, they're like giggling together the entire time. They're like besties.
I think they liked the drama. They knew all this kind of weird tension that was going on, but they're like, fuck it, we'll just get hammered on a boat and maybe we'll be fine at the end of it.
And Walken was annoying both the captain and RJ, I'll call him for clarity.
You don't like Daddy Wagner.
Daddy Wags.
Yeah, he was rubbing them the wrong way, everyone but Natalie.
In which
Sound like everybody was getting rubbed over there.
Hey, it's a rub and fuck.
Well, the captain said that it was because Walken had arrived on the boat totally unprepared and was complaining about the temperature and having him turn the heat way up and stuff like that.
So he didn't bring a sweater, basically.
Yeah.
It's cold.
And RJ...
My core temperature is low.
Screw RJ. I'm going to say Robert.
Okay.
RJ. What the hell is that? So...
Too many names on this guy.
Robert is clearly annoyed of him for other reasons because he may be boinking the wife.
Boinking, okay. I like that.
Boinking.
Yeah, I would be annoyed also, but why would they invite this guy right off the bat?
That's one of the craziest things about this entire story. How was it those three plus the captain on that yacht for the weekend?
Yeah.
Just the worst combination of people.
But also, they wanted to bring in some other people to maybe draw out some of the tension, but none of those people would come knowing that this is the dynamic.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
I wouldn't either.
Come save us from ourselves. And they're like, no, we're
Hey,
good.
yeah, you guys do you.
And we know that Natalie wanted Walken there for obvious reasons. She dug the guy and wanted to get to know him more, and they clearly were getting along very well.
Because the movie's still shooting, so like...
It's almost done. They have to do some shots in Los Angeles.
Okay.
But yeah, they're still co-stars.
Yeah.
And so that night, they docked near the shore, and Walken became seasick.
Once they stopped moving?
To add to him being a pain in the ass, he's seasick now.
Well, it did stop, but it was also very choppy out there.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that choppiness all the time. And I kind of don't... I don't, blame him for feeling that seasick. It seemed like a chaotic night on the sea. The sea was angry that night, and so wasn't Daddy Wagner.
Hey.
Yeah. So to remind you, we're still in Friday, November 27th. First day out, and now the first night out. Walken goes to bed early because he was sick. And due to rough weather, according to Robert, Natalie and Dennis ended up staying at a hotel on shore called the Pavilion Lodge, and they rented out 2 rooms.
But only used 1.
Oh, yeah, this is the other thing.
That's correct.
Yeah.
They only used 1 room, but nothing happened.
Inflagrante happened.
Dennis...
Well, she's got to work off that money somehow.
Yeah.
Being a year-round captain.
Dennis, the captain, claims she knew I would never make a pass at her, so he stayed in the room as a bodyguard.
Okay.
So his room was left untouched.
Yeah, bodyguard. That's right. That's the story.
And Walken and Robert... Now I'm saying first and last names. All right, I'm saying Daddy Wagner from now on.
That's our third variation, listeners. That we
So Walken and Daddy Wagner stayed on the Splendor that night.
Splendor.
But there's a twist.
Wasn't Splendor that night, I'll tell you that much.
Years later, Dennis the captain said the real reason for the hotel stay was not because the weather was rough, but it was because the couple had been arguing nonstop about Walken.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And it got so bad that Natalie decided she's going to leave the island.
Fuck.
The next day as fast as she can, but they have to do a hotel that night.
I wonder if she brought him in purposely as like a wedge between them so she could justify getting re-divorced to Daddy Wagner.
And before they went to the hotel, the fighting was so bad that the captain knocked on Walken's door and asked him to please intervene and help stop this beast. But then the actor said, quote, "Never get involved in an argument between a man and a wife."
Wow.
Kevin Pollak left the room for a second. So we don't have an impersonator right now.
How would you say that? Never get involved. Can you do it,
Never
Mark?
get involved with a man and his wife.
There you go. Beautiful.
Thank you.
And later in his police interview, that actually matches the captain's version of that night. They were fighting, and that's why that was the reason for the hotel stay. But the first go-around for police interviews for the captain, as early as November 29th, he told police that all 4 of them had slept on the yacht that evening.
Wait, who said that?
The captain. That's what he told police at first.
Yeah, he lied.
But they already had the information that wasn't true. So right off the bat, the captain was not a credible witness to them.
So on his own,
I think because he was taking it to the wife and he didn't want to get out.
Or he's loyal to Daddy Wagner. And that story certainly helps Daddy Wagner, doesn't it? That there was no fighting. We all stayed on the yacht. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
She was mad at her husband. She's in a hotel room alone with this guy all night. They got 2 rooms, only used 1. Even a bodyguard could stay in the next room. And if there's any commotion, they get up and go over.
Well, maybe if she was like really...
I don't believe
if
it.
she was really, really drunk and she needed to be observed, maybe.
She wanted Christopher Walken, not the captain.
Yeah.
And so now let's go to Saturday, second day out, November 28th, 1981. A hungover Natalie asked a clerk where she could catch boat transportation back to the mainland. And then the clerk recalls being surprised that this famous movie actress was looking for public transportation. That's how desperate she is to get away from her husband.
Yeah.
She wanted off this
Well, she wanted to
island.
take one of those, what they have those boats that go back and forth every couple hours.
Yeah, exactly. Which, again, it's insane that they ever went out, the 4 of them together like this.
Yeah.
Because it was a disaster from the very first second that they left Beverly Hills.
But at least if it's like a sunny day out and beautiful, like you can go outside and take a dip in the water and people are just more happy.
Right.
But with this kind of bad rain shit going on, it's like miserable.
Yeah. It matches their feelings inside.
Yeah.
After that, she ends up returning to the yacht, Splendor, citing that she didn't want to abandon Christopher Walken, who was her guest that weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So she made huevos rancheros for everyone on the boat.
That was her thing.
Yeah. And everyone acted like nothing happened.
That's so awkward.
Yeah. At 11 a.m., they sailed to what's called Isthmus Cove.
Also in Catalina.
Which is very isolated. Yeah, and it's on the north end of Catalina.
Yeah.
Everyone's napping in the afternoon, except for Natalie, who was in the main salon, it's called, of the boat, and she was reading. That evening, they dined at a restaurant called Doug's Harbor Reef. And it's the only restaurant in this area.
We got Doug's and,
Or you can go fishing.
Yeah.
Or you're fucking horrible rancheros again.
Yeah. Or you can go fuck yourself.
Speaking of, in an awkward attempt at bonding, Robert, now it's Robert again.
Okay.
He tries to go fishing with Walken. He tries to get him to go fishing with them off the boat.
Oh, my God.
And Walken has absolutely zero interest.
Well, he just doesn't seem to mesh well with these people.
No, except Natalie.
Except Natalie.
They're like a couple of giggling schoolgirls together. And so they're at this restaurant, Doug's Harbor Reef. Walken and Wood got there first. I mean,
they did.
Is that not nutty? They run off together to go to the restaurant by themselves.
Yeah.
And then later, Robert and the captain join them.
From this documentary and the interviews with RJ or Daddy Wagner, whatever we're calling him at this second.
Robert.
Yeah. He seems to be okay with him, with Christopher Walken. He doesn't seem to really hate him. I don't think he really, it's weird.
He's annoyed of him this weekend. In the documentary, in retrospect,
he calls him a stand-up guy.
Yeah, he calls him a stand-up guy.
He's like, yeah, he's a good guy, stand-up guy.
He went with the story I told police.
Maybe.
I mean, he's a nice guy.
Yeah.
All right, so let's not get ahead of ourselves. They're at this restaurant. The others join them. According to the staff, there's a lot of heavy drinking going on.
Oh my God.
Are you surprised?
When isn't there?
And that there was some volatility emanating from Natalie.
Oh, geez. She's probably shitty to the staff. That's why. She's probably...
Bingo.
I hate
she
that,
was
too.
completely dissatisfied with the wine list.
Oh, God.
Get this.
It's like Brian Laundrie.
Then the captain and Christopher Walken took the dinghy boat. It's called a dinghy.
Oh, this dinghy. I hate this dinghy.
Yeah, for the audience, just so you're aware, it's called a dinghy. And no, it's not a cute name for a mark on your car. It's a boat. It's a little rubber boat. It's like a lifeboat. And their dinghy was nicknamed Prince Valiant.
Oh, my God.
Should have been Prince Albert.
One of Daddy Wagner's biggest movie flops.
Wow, so everything is named after him.
So it's a tongue-in-cheek. Yeah. Well, Splendor was Natalie.
Okay, never mind. I take that back.
So after Natalie complains about the wine list, Walken and the captain take the dinghy, Prince Valiant, over to the main yacht and grab 2 bottles of wine from the Wagner personal collection.
Just what we needed.
Because it's better than the restaurants. And while there, Walken and the captain smoke a joint together.
I happen to have this joint.
Yeah, so they're pretty messed up when they return to the restaurant.
Wow, everyone's getting fucked up during this thing.
Yes. So according to the waitress, one of them they couldn't remember had a daiquiri as well. And then 2 more bottles of champagne were sent over to the table by other patrons.
Like they needed that.
During the meal, Natalie didn't eat much, and she complained about a laundry list of things like the freshness of the fish and the restaurant's lighting not being right.
Oh my God.
And then there was this incident where some wine glasses were broken on the floor. And there was speculation like, was this out of anger? Christopher Walken later told police that it was part of a silly toast where at the end he intentionally threw the glass on the floor to end the toast.
Is it like a Jewish wedding or something?
Something like that. And then the others followed suit.
So they're just fucking up this restaurant.
Yeah.
They're yelling at the staff.
After dinner, they returned to the yacht, Splendor. William Peterson, a shoreboat operator, and then Kurt Craig, part of the harbor patrol, they watched the Wagner party motor back to the yacht. And then they heard a female scream. And the overall consensus was that this party of people, this group, it's not in good spirits. There's something off going on.
There's something that's gone awry with this party.
What we know from afar is they go back to the yacht. They're not in good spirits. They made a scene at the restaurant, and that's it. Good night. And it's a cold, starless, dark night. The next thing we know is that Natalie Wood was discovered dead, floating in the water face down the next morning, the 29th.
A day that will live in infamy.
She's found floating off the coast of Catalina Island, where they are. And the Coast Guard hadn't been called until hours after she went missing.
Which in the documentary, they try to say that they called immediately and
No,
they were
they
on
didn't.
the case instantly.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what Daddy Wagner said. He said, how do you blame me for this? I called the Coast Guard, I called the police, but like, yeah,
The Highway Patrol was there. The Coast Guard was on the scene immediately.
Yeah.
No, they weren't.
Yeah, the NAACP was there, AAA was there.
Gloria Allred.
Yeah, the MPAA.
She was waiting.
Called everyone.
So she was found around 8 a.m. and she was wearing a flannel nightgown and a red down jacket.
That doesn't sound like somebody go to take a dinghy ride in or anything. Whatever she was planning.
And the inflatable dinghy, Prince Valiant, was found washed up on the rocks with the ignition turned off, and it's in neutral with the oars up.
Huh.
And then the basic timeline of what went down is 11 p.m. Saturday night, Natalie went missing. And at 1:30 a.m., the harbor master is called. And then at 3:30, that's when the Coast Guard is finally alerted.
Yeah.
And then at 7:45 a.m. is when her body was discovered. The toxicology report came out with her blood alcohol level at 0.14%, about 0.04% above the drunk driving level.
Yeah. Well, the level right now is 1.0 before they change it to 0.08. Yeah. That's a decent amount. You know, I figured she was way more drunker than that, but she was also on other
There was a
things.
litany of pills also.
Here's another thing. Her bladder was full, which means it's less likely that she was conscious before hitting the water.
So she had to take a squeege.
Yeah.
You're not going to hold it in that situation. So if she was conscious in the water,
panicking.
Yeah, definitely would have let it out.
Huh.
The autopsy detailed bruising on her body, but the coroner labeled it as superficial, the bruising. Were the bruises before or after she drowned? And there was no mention of what was under her fingernails. As you know, and we've discussed before, that's very important in murder cases.
Yeah.
Find out what's under the fingernails.
They're struggling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're defensively trying to fight for their life.
LA County Coroner's Chief Medical Examiner, Thomas Noguchi, downplayed the sensationalism in the case because of something that happened a couple weeks prior.
Pum, pum, pum.
The plot thickens.
Y'all remember that show Heart to Heart?
I do.
That Robert Wagner was
H-A-R-T.
currently starring in and making a lot of money from?
Yes.
He co-starred with this woman named Stephanie Powers. And the same rumors that swirled around Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood were swirling around him and his co-star Stephanie.
Wow.
But she was not on the yacht with them that weekend.
Yeah.
So no tension there. But Stephanie Powers was married to a very famous actor named William Holden.
Oh, yeah.
Who was a hard drunk.
I feel like everyone's just fucking
So
ripping and running.
yeah, so he's on one of his tears and he falls and hits his head and then bleeds to death.
Whoops.
By the way, this is quite a coincidence.
Sure.
This was just 2 weeks before Natalie Wood died.
Yeah.
That his co-star Stephanie's husband died.
Yeah.
Back to Thomas Noguchi, the chief medical examiner, he publicly said that William Holden died because he was drunk and fell. So Hollywood was outraged. They call it an invasion of privacy.
Oh,
like, why would you reveal that he was a drunk like that?
Oh, yeah.
And so
you're
now,
nervous.
with that hanging over Noguchi's head, he's handling the Wood case and downplaying it.
Nervous Noguchi, they called him.
Yes.
I would be too.
There's that alliteration I love. Noguchi concluded that Natalie fell in the water trying to board the dinghy. And in 1983, Noguchi, what do you think he did in 1983, like everyone else involved
He got
in
drunk
Natalie's
and
life?
did some pills?
No, he wrote a book.
Oh, okay.
my God, this guy.
And it's called Coroner, one word. And in it, he says, quote, why had she slipped out of the stern of the yacht in the middle of the night, climbed down a ladder, and untied the dinghy? So he presented all these questions like that and provided no answers. So who cares about the book?
Wow.
This guy Noguchi's kind of like a shithead a
Yeah.
little bit. Like,
Yeah, he's pretty much responsible for it being such a quick open and shut case.
Yeah.
The cause of death was officially listed as accidental drowning. And no charges were filed against anybody.
Wow.
On December 2nd, 1981, Natalie Wood was buried in Westwood Village Memorial Park Cemetery.
Oh.
And the funeral was attended by her awful mom.
Yeah. I knew this was going to happen.
No more moving pictures for her.
Oh, yeah, she's Russian. I knew this was going to happen. She made her last movie.
She was at the funeral with the daughters and the friends.
I saw a vision of her dying.
Have I told you?
When I was 15.
So I'm sure you're wondering what happened to Splendor, the yacht.
It was blown up.
Yeah. It's
It
no
was-
longer with us.
It was not surprisingly considered a cursed boat after that night and was hidden away on some shore for a while before Robert Wagner donated it to the Sea Scouts, a youth boating club.
Like, it ended up killing 100 kids, just like the James Dean car. Okay,
Now we're getting a little crazy. So, despite the inconsistencies in the testimonies of the three principal witnesses, Captain Dennis, Christopher Walken, and Robert Wagner, the police investigation was closed on December 11th, 1981, about 2 weeks after Natalie's death.
we're good here.
Open and shut.
Yep. barely opened.
Yeah, there's like a small...
Hardly had the time to say
little,
hello.
A little thin manila folder. They're like, all right.
They throw it in the fire.
Throw it in the fire. That's that.
Yeah. Now, let's fast forward to 2011.
Ooh. There's more to this.
The case was reopened with 2 new anonymous eyewitnesses.
But who else could it be? Like, was there a seal that saw it or something?
It's Catalina Island. There's boats around.
Oh, that's
true. And think
yeah.
of all the restaurant staff, the hotel staff, just people that were around and witnessing this behavior.
Yeah, it's just the behavior, not just the murder itself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now the official cause of death was changed from accidental drowning to drowning and other undetermined factors by the LA coroner's office.
That's a big change right there. After all that time,
30 years
is wild. You just you don't see that.
Not unless they're getting ready to bust a famous actor at the end of his life.
Now, let's fast forward to 2018. Authorities now classified Natalie's death as suspicious, and Robert Wagner was named a person of interest.
So do they get the death certificate back and then they pull white out over drowned?
Yeah.
Accidental drown and they change it.
Plus
Were
some
you
other
there?
things.
That's
Plus
exactly
some
how it
other
happened.
things happened too.
Yeah, and he's named a person of interest, which is different from a suspect.
Yeah.
It just means that he was kind of the last person who was with her before she died, you know, so he might have some answers.
It's an official police designation.
Since the case has been reopened, Wagner has refused to talk to investigators. His story over the years has been inconsistent. And so now the latest from the LA County Sheriff's Department is that it remains an open investigation and that they will not stop until they have all the answers.
That's a long time to be ongoing.
Yeah. 40 years now.
No, but still, even since
2011.
the reopening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mark, are you ready now to get into the accounts from each of the principal players
I'm
in this
so fucking ready,
sordid murder mystery?
Kyle, you ready?
Are you ready?
Are you fucking ready to look into this?
Are you ready, Kyle?
Let's rock! Let's hear some testimony!
What is this, a great white show all of a sudden? No thanks.
Not until next month.
Yeah, exactly. Not until the real show next month.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start with the account of Daddy Wagner. Are you sitting down?
Well, I hope I am.
In 1981, he claimed that the cruise had been happy before the freak accident occurred. Everyone was in good spirits and happy vibes all around.
Good time.
Yeah. We were playing hacky sack. Everything was great.
And so, according to Noguchi himself, a nonviolent argument had occurred before Wood's disappearance. And that's what appeared in Noguchi's book, that version.
He labeled it a non-violent argument. That's a weird thing to qualifier for an argument.
Yeah.
So naturally, Wagner had to get his side of the story out. So in his book, Heart to Heart, which was released in 1986, that's where he put his official version of the story out, of what occurred that night. He said that he had been having a political discussion with Walken that started at the restaurant and continued onto the yacht, but it was respectful. And that's what they were discussing. And so then he says that Natalie became bored during the political argument. So, quote, she left us after about a half an hour and we sat there talking for almost another hour. Then I went to kiss her goodnight and found her missing, end quote.
Wow.
And then he noticed that the dinghy was missing as well. And so that's when they called the Coast Guard.
So he's like, let me just go check on the dinghy really quick before I go to bed.
Yeah. In another memoir that he wrote years and years later, he says there are 2 possibilities of what happened to Natalie that night. One, Natalie wanted to escape the love triangle and crawled into the dinghy herself. She had just had enough of the drama.
What triangle if she wasn't with Christopher Walken?
Well, his story has changed so many times.
Yeah.
There was that version of the political debate, but then later on, I'll get into how he admits that they were actually fighting about Natalie and Christopher.
Yeah, and well, in the documentary, that's what he says.
And so number 2, the other possibility is that Natalie noticed the dinghy was loose and she had hated the noise it made when clanging against the side of the yacht. And so while trying to tie it back up, she fell into the water. Coroner Noguchi wrote in his book that he had trouble with this theory because a rubber dinghy would make very little noise when hitting a yacht. But he noted that sometimes silence is subjective.
Well, Robert or Daddy Wagner had Natasha confirm that.
Yeah.
That they're like, oh, you remember that dinghy I hated? She's like, oh, yeah, I remember that.
She's like, I just remember Mom hated the noise that it would make
Yeah.
all the time and say, Robert, go tie up the dinghy.
Yeah. Like, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Good job.
Good job.
Yeah, and so
Next question.
that's the basic version of Robert Wagner's account of that night. There was some kind of argument, and then she went to bed, and Wagner stayed up longer, and then when he went to bed, he found that she was missing, and so was the dinghy. And then he, eventually alerted the Coast Guard, and all's well that didn't end well.
Yeah. He was more concerned about the dinghy, I think.
Where's my dinghy?
My dinghy's missing. Oh, yeah, my wife.
Sounds like a personal problem, pal. Also, your wife's dead.
And so
Call us back when something serious happens, okay?
Case closed.
Yeah, case closed. Smell you later. We got to go.
So Daddy Wagner cooperated with the cops at first, but after that he was less cooperative through the years, and since the case has been reopened, not cooperative at all.
Okay.
And a statement from Wagner's attorney in 2013 says, Mr. Wagner has been interviewed on multiple occasions by the LA Sheriff's Department and answered every single question asked by the detectives during those interviews. So yeah, his inconsistent account through the years, it always ends with he went and found that she was missing. But he later admitted there was a lot of jealousy in the air, and he was arguing with Natalie, and then Christopher Walken stepped in. The argument was about her returning to work and acting more, and Robert thought that she should be at home more with the kids.
Yeah.
And they had this big argument about it, and Walken stepped in and said, hey, let her do what she wants, man.
Yeah.
She's an actress.
Daddy Wagner bit his
and
fucking
she's
head off.
an icon, and she should be in movies. So that's where Robert Wagner says, mind your own fucking business, and breaks the wine bottle on the table.
Yeah.
And it's just this rage-fueled, drunken argument. And Natalie goes to her room, Walken goes to his room, and that's that. That brings us to his latest account of it, which was featured in the documentary that we talked about, Natalie Wood, What Remains Behind, which premiered on HBO in 2020. It's purported to be a love letter to Natalie Wood, this documentary, but you quickly realize the film's purpose is actually to exonerate Robert Wagner.
Yeah.
Daddy Wagner puff piece.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hidden inside of that is kind of just a side note, a sly way of trying to get her dad out of, being named as a suspect in the murder of her mom.
Yeah.
That's the way I saw it.
The centerpiece of this documentary is Natasha Gregson Wagner's interview with her daddy, Robert Wagner. And we have a clip.
This is so creepy.
I remember I had a few glasses of vino, and I was feeling pretty good. And,
that's it?
We came back, to the boat. I opened up another bottle of wine and had a couple more glasses of wine. And
vino.
I sat there with Chris, and we started talking, and he started to mention to me about your mother and how wonderful she was and what a great actress she was and how he enjoyed working with her. And he said, I think it's important that she works. I said, I think it's important if you stay out of her life.
Oh,
jeez.
That
escalated quickly.
About that. Suddenly he's telling me what she should do and how she should behave.
How she should behave.
I don't think that was
and
what came
my
up.
mother went down below our stateroom our bedroom was down below, and she went down below to get ready to go to bed, and I sat there with Chris, and I said, why don't you just, don't tell her what to do and stay out of her life. And I picked up the bottle and smashed it on the table. And, I was really, angry at him about it.
So he admits smashing the bottle
and being furious.
But
he's quick to say after that, he goes, but I calmed down. I calmed down and everything was fine.
Yeah.
And then we find her dead.
Well, then after that, he goes, then Chris went outside and I followed him. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
Then he came back down and I followed him there and we talked some more. I'm like, what else do you have to talk
in his
about?
ear, yeah.
I think Walken was just on eggshells this entire weekend. He's like, she's a good actress, and then he's like, no, mind your fucking business, motherfucker.
I'll fucking kill you.
I'll kill you. How dare you say good things about my wife, you
son of a bitch.
Yeah. It makes him seem like a rage-filled guy.
Yeah.
So let's go to the next clip.
He went to his cabin, which was up on the other part of the forward on the boat. And
Walken.
Dennis, we swept up the glass off the floor and cleaned up the salon a bit. And we talked about leaving the next day to go back to the mainland. And then I went below, and when I went below, she wasn't there. And so I looked around, I looked in the bathroom, and she was in the bathroom. And I went on the aft end of the bar, and the dinghy was gone. And I came back up, and I said, I got Dennis and Chris. I said, Natalie's not here. She's taken off, I guess, in the dinghy. I better. Did any of you hear it? And nobody heard anything.
Right.
I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear anything about. We would have heard it if the dinghy had fired up.
Yes.
Yes.
So, I called the shore boat. One of the guys came out because I thought maybe she had gone back to the restaurant or back to the isthmus where there were these little slips where you could put your boat in and go in.
I remember those.
The dinghy wasn't there, and she wasn't there, and I yelled up at the guy, says, Natalie up there? No, he's not here.
Yeah,
I got back, and the shore boat came back. I said, she didn't go ashore, at least to the isthmus.
Right.
So it was then that we called the shore patrol.
Hours later.
You seen anything? No, we haven't seen anything. We called the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard came in, and then, we waited for it seemed like forever to me. And
Because they were looking for her, right?
Yeah, they were looking for her. And this man that I knew and that your mother knew, Doug Bombard, he took care of everything in Catalina at that time and had all the moorings of which we
What do you mean he took care of
had
everything?
one. And he,
I don't know.
It's like a fixer. It's like a Ray Donovan.
he said, we found her. And I said,
Oh, great.
is she okay? And he said, she's dead.
Yeah.
But is she okay?
But you knew that.
Yeah, no shit.
Weird.
Yeah,
man.
his account doesn't make a ton of sense. He's all over the place.
Yeah.
He didn't spring into action to save her.
He's
You know.
wasted.
Yeah. Well, they're all wasted.
Yeah.
The captain was drinking with them too.
There's like a boat of blackout adults.
Yes.
This final clip from the interview shows the daughter's purpose for this whole documentary.
But it's important to me, Daddy, that people think of you,
Daddy,
the way I know that you are. And
Creepy.
it bothers me that anyone would ever think that you would be involved in what happened to her. Because you would have given your life for my mom.
And that's true.
Listen to this.
We all would have. I mean, if there was if we'd have heard anything or know anything that was going on, or any kind of disaster was going to take place, we'd have been there.
You see how he's a bit uncomfortable responding to her saying, you would have given your life for her. He's like caught off guard.
Yeah, kind of.
We all would. You would have too, right? I mean,
He's saying all lives matter.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Daddy didn't sound too cool right there.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to get to the account of Dennis de Verne, the captain.
Captain, my captain.
He originally corroborated RJ's version of events, and he even signed a statement prepared by attorneys saying the same story that RJ gave.
I wonder,
Daddy Wagner.
Did he have the same attorneys as Daddy Wagner?
Yes.
So they had a joint defense counsel.
Yeah, he was part of the Wagner team.
Oh, see, that's sketchy, man.
Kind of similar to Cousin Greg on Succession.
Yeah.
Yeah, where they just need to keep him at bay.
Yeah.
You know?
No spoilers.
In 2011, the captain's story changed. And so in his version, After Walken went to bed, he went up to the deck, which was above the main bedroom, where Natalie and RJ were arguing. Originally, he said they weren't arguing.
Yeah.
But now they're arguing, and he overheard Robert say, "Get off my fucking boat," to Natalie.
Shit.
And so then Dennis went down to check on them, but was told to go away. And one theory is that this is where Robert beat Natalie unconscious and then dumped her overboard. So Robert later came back and joined the captain for more wine around 11:30 p.m. This is around the same time that Natalie was missing.
You guys thirsty?
They hung out until about 1:30 a.m. And that's when Robert said, "I better go back down and check on Natalie." A few minutes later, he came back up and said, "She's gone." After suggesting they fire up the floodlights and cruise around looking for her, Robert shot him down. And he said, "No, we're not going to do that."
So under this theory, it could have been that he pushed her over the side, beat her up, and that she could be somewhere around there trying to fight her way back onto the boat or the dinghy or something.
Yeah.
Why would she detach the dinghy in this scenario, I wonder?
Robert could have detached the
I think
dinghy
he did.
to
Turned
make
it
it
on
look,
and let it fly away.
Yeah, to make it look like she had detached
Oh.
the dinghy. But that's really the main point of the captain's version, is that there was a vicious fight.
But Walken would hear this fight too.
We're going to get to that in Walken's
Wow.
version. But that's always the part that never makes that much sense.
Yeah.
And apparently, too, the fighting was so bad that the captain turned his music up really loud on the top deck to drown out the loud fighting that apparently Walken slept through. So, shortly after the death, the captain would continue to grieve and drink with RJ.
What?
And RJ had even gotten him small bit parts on TV and would pay Verne with checks. $2,000 here, $2,000 there. And friends of the captain kind of saw this as hush money. That's just speculation.
That's what I thought just when you were saying that.
And through the years, Dennis Verne sold his story to the tabloids. And he even had a disastrous appearance on Geraldo in 1992, in which he was secretly filmed admitting that he lied to police initially. This appearance took away from the credibility of the captain, obviously, and afterwards, Daddy Wagner sent Verne a letter warning him that he better keep quiet.
Is there proof of this letter?
From the captain.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the captain now.
He's unassailable.
I've been waiting.
Hey!
I have been waiting for that pun and that line from the Tom Hanks movie the entire episode.
Boom, you
and
got
you
it.
finally delivered it.
We got it.
Years later, the captain returned to Florida. Remember where he first brought the Challenger, a.k.a. Splendor, from Florida to California? Well, he returned to Florida to work, painting and restoring old boats, and he got married and had 3 kids. He named his first child Natasha.
Oh.
And I have a clip of the captain on Nancy Grace in 2011 when the case was first reopened.
Boom shakalaka.
That night, Robert Wagner and Natalie Wood, ferocious fight going on. You turned up your music so they would not think in your mind that you were eavesdropping or trying to hear
Wonder
them.
what music it was.
But you did hear them.
Yeah, yes, I did.
Captain.
Then the arguing went on to the aft deck, and moments later, everything became silent. I decided, well, I'm going to go down below, and I'm going to go to the aft deck and just see if everything's okay.
What the F is going on? You know what I mean?
Robert Wagner was standing there,
Captain's
leaning his
here to
back
fix your
against the back of
problems.
the boat, facing the boat, and he said that Natalie was missing, and would I go search the boat? He said to me, the dinghy has gone too. Well, I just knew that Natalie was so deathly afraid of the water, not really capable of taking that boat by herself. And I said, let's turn on the searchlight to see if we could see her. And he says, we're not going to do that. He said, no, let's call the restaurant. He said, we're not going to do that either. And after a couple hours, we called the restaurant.
Okay.
And right after that, people from the restaurant came out to the boat. So the Coast Guard was contacted, and they were going to start doing their search. And by now, it's getting daylight, and they came back to the boat, and they say they found Natalie Wood's body floating and the dinghy was somewhat nearby her.
Painful to listen to the guy talk, but
Jesus.
Yeah.
And by the way, I took out probably 20 long pauses. You basically got the gist.
So Nancy Grace just bears with him. Just
Yeah.
Like, all right, yeah, he'll get to it eventually.
Yeah, good luck watching that in its entirety.
That was long enough. That felt like
boring.
Godfather.
So he seems like a pretty low-key guy there. Check out his later appearance on Dr. Oz and look at his haircut.
I also start to feel fearful for my own life, because I'm thinking, to me, this whole thing didn't make sense.
Oh my
I
God.
was thinking to myself, I wonder.
He's got some wretched
might
ponytail
be
coming out of the
thinking-
back of his head.
Looks like Goro
Maybe I should get rid of him.
from Mortal Kombat.
In case you missed what he was saying, he said that he feared for his life that night and still kind of continues to fear for his life for speaking out, implying that Robert Wagner could put out a hit on him or something.
Oh, yeah.
Robert Wagner.
He doesn't want that. Hey.
What? He doesn't want his Robert to RJ to cut off his ponytail.
Yeah, that haircut's worth saving.
Yeah, like what?
There's a major artery in that ponytail. If you cut it, it's going to die.
What happened between 2011 and now that morphed into that ponytail?
I don't. This guy.
Like the end of, was it Jason Alexander at the end of that?
Shallow Hal?
Yeah,
With
Shallow Hal.
He had an actual tail.
Oh,
on
did he?
that one, yeah.
Yeah, oh, an actual
Not a
tail.
ponytail.
Yeah, that was very weird.
So that's the captain. You've met the captain and you've heard his account.
Yeah.
What did we gather from that account? Big fight. RJ could have murdered her. Now let's get to Christopher Walken.
Oh,
Famous.
I don't know. Why me?
Actor.
I was sleeping.
So after this infamous fight where the wine bottle's broken, Walken goes over to his room in the front of the boat, goes to sleep, and he says that he heard nothing.
Who could sleep like that? That's like the Brady Bunch. Remember, they just go right to bed, like good night, mom, and then he goes right away. They're sleeping. Like
Remember all the round the clock drinking?
Yeah,
He might have passed out, perhaps.
possible.
I mean, it's kind of weird that he wouldn't hear the captain's music
It was
blared
that close. Yeah.
and the very loud argument between.
You said there's a yacht, but like it's still
Natalie
very
Wood and Robert.
Everything's very close.
Oh yeah, it's a big yacht, but still, it's a yacht. It's not a mansion.
No, yeah, people are still a little close.
2 interviews were conducted with Walken shortly after the death, and his account was pretty close to Dennis DeVerne's. He said that the argument that night in the salon was about their home life and that Robert complained that Natalie was away from the kids too much and that she should focus on her home life over her career. There's that Cinderella complex I was talking about by my maybe great aunt, Colette Dowling.
He's making this TV show Heart to Heart, so he's like, that's like a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday job. So he's like, I want you, but they also.
It's just drunken.
Yeah, just drunken bullshit. Yeah.
Walken, we know, stepped in to support Natalie in the argument, and it escalated but ended with apologies all around. So Walken goes to bed, that's it. When he wakes up, they're looking for Natalie, and later she's discovered dead. And that's it, according to Walken. Nothing to see here.
Wow.
He was silent about it after those initial police interviews for years and years until 1997 when he spoke to Playboy magazine. So, yeah, I have an excerpt from the Playboy interview here, and let me just speed through this a little bit. I feel like you should read it, actually.
Okay, do you have it for me?
Poor
Is
Natalie.
that big enough for you? The type?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not a grandparent here yet. Anybody saw the logistics of the boat the night where we were, that it was raining, and would know exactly what happened. You hear about things happening to people. They slip in the bathtub, fall down the stairs, step off the curb in London because they think the cars come the other way.
What the
and they die.
fuck are you talking about?
You feel you want to die making an effort at something. You don't want to die in some unnecessary way.
Ain't that the truth?
What happened that night only she knows because she was alone. She had gone to bed before
Alone.
us. And her room was at the back.
Yeah.
A dinghy was bouncing against the side of the boat.
I love
Yeah, it
Walken.
was.
I love Walken saying dingy.
Dingy.
And I think she went out to move it. There was a ski ramp that was partially in the water. It was slippery. I had walked on it myself. She had told me she couldn't swim. In fact, they had to cut a swimming scene from Brainstorm, the movie they were in together.
Yeah, plugging that one.
Yeah, coming out in 2 weeks. No, he didn't say that. She was probably half asleep, and she was wearing a coat. So that's the full quote.
Yeah. 1997.
Wow.
It's just like rambling insanity.
Yeah.
Yeah, Master Impressionist, guys. I'll be at Flappers Comedy Club in the Yoo-Hoo Room on the 4:15 show on Sunday.
Okay, now do it as Shatner.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Captain's log. She was wearing a coat.
William was probably jealous he wasn't on the yacht that weekend, too.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you how to get away with it.
Yeah.
If there's wife killing and then water and booze, I want in.
I'm in.
Person of interest.
What is a person of interest? A Pinterest.
So Walken thinks that Natalie hit her head trying to remove the dinghy and fell into the water.
Imagine him as a character witness, though, in a court of law. You like both sides would be like, okay, we'll just mistrial. Yeah. As soon as he says 2 sentences.
And to remind the audience, in Daddy Wagner and Walken's account, why was she going to fuss with the dinghy to go to shore, possibly?
If she was going to go to shore, she would have taken the captain with her.
Exactly. That's what everybody says.
Yeah.
She was afraid of the water and would most certainly not have gone by herself at night in the dinghy to get to
But
shore.
she had this closer relationship with the captain who was up there playing music.
Mm-hmm.
She would have asked for his help in some way.
They just slept together in the hotel.
Maybe he was
Yeah,
already,
they did.
the night before.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
And I don't mean sleep like sexually. I just meant
I do.
But you know,
I
it's,
do also. I
it's
think
a
there's some
close
hanky-panky
relationship,
going on.
though. You
Yeah.
know, it's like they've known this guy for years, and she felt comfortable with him. So of course she would have said,
Can I say my 2 cents?
"Let's go."
I think because all of a sudden RJ's like, this is my fucking boat. I own Dennis. I pay him. Because RJ's making a ton of money around this time.
Oh,
so he's
yeah.
like throwing his money around and use it against her.
Yeah.
So that's why she's like, maybe I'll just go on my own and fuck these people and I'm going to, jump in the water.
Could be.
Hot take.
And then, since the case has been reopened, Walken hired a litigation specialist named Matthew Rosengart to represent him. So if you don't think,
help.
If you don't think
Mr. Rosengart.
that he hired legal help after the case was reopened, you're dead wrong.
Yeah.
He realizes that
He was concerned.
yes, there may be a knock at his door someday, so he's got the legal team ready.
I don't want to lose these Wayne's World dollars.
Wayne's World $2.
Yeah.
Not even the first one.
The sequel.
It's like The Godfather 2 of Wayne's World.
Because it's part 2.
And while he was doing looping and I think shooting his final scenes for Brainstorm that was finished after Natalie died, remember?
Yeah.
He spoke to Entertainment Tonight.
Did having a coworker and a friend die change your attitude about living, Christopher?
Well, I suppose, confrontation with the sudden absence of somebody you're working with and for anybody, it's bound to make a difference in your life.
What's his
Yes,
backing music
How
also?
do you feel about the way the media handled the fact that Natalie Wood did die during the shooting of Brainstorm? How do you think that was dealt with?
Great.
They handled
Best
it,
way ever.
in the only way they could. It was a shocking thing, and
Yeah, it was shocking.
Shocking.
I think everything happened that was gonna
Jesus, him and the captain.
You still with
Do
us,
you
Chris?
think that the real story of Natalie Wood's death has
Wake up,
actually
Chris.
come out?
Chris, yeah, wake him up.
The real story of her death is that she
She died.
drowned, and nobody knows how she drowned or
Except
what
for
happened,
me.
except
I know the secrets,
That's what it is.
and I'm keeping them.
There is no real story. You know, there is.
There's a
Nobody
live
knows.
band playing the backing tracks for this thing.
There's no story except for, the story.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
So are y'all clear on his account?
I'm more confused than when we,
I know.
started this whole thing.
Because according to him, she just kind of disappeared.
At no point did I feel confident in anything he just said right there.
In anything any of them have said.
No,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
true.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
They're hiding something.
But that's the gist, though. The gist is there was an argument. They all went to bed. They all went their separate ways. And then it was discovered that Natalie was missing and that she was probably trying to get to the mainland on the dinghy and drown trying to do that.
Yeah.
But he lawyered up in 2011.
At some point, you got to do that.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you hire a lawyer in that situation?
But if you're that scatterbrained, to bring up scatterbrain again, and you're that kind of like not with it, like
yeah,
you
if you're
can get-
Charlie Rose in it, then
yeah, you could get yourself into trouble just by like freestyling kind of responses to the DA.
But he's lucky that his freestyling actually serves him better because it can be interpreted in so many different ways.
Yeah, well, he could get an insane defense, but as a witness.
Because he can't say a coherent sentence.
It's all over the place.
And how is he
kind
even-
of talks like Donald Trump a little bit. Like
Right.
he just moves onto ideas very
yeah,
quickly.
rhymes
Yeah.
and riddles.
Yeah, he speaks in riddles.
And you can see this is why the captain, and not to take Daddy Wagner's side, but they were annoyed of him the whole weekend because he's flirting with Natalie the whole time
Yeah.
and probably talking like that.
Yeah.
And as the more calm he gets defending Natalie on the boat that night, the more enraged Daddy Wagner got.
Well, if Christopher Walken's just scatting like that the entire weekend, that would get on my fucking nerves
Yeah.
too. It's just like
I'm going to punch this nerd.
What's this guy saying?
And it's a recipe.
The drunker he gets, probably the more wild it gets.
Recipe for disaster, because then you got Daddy Wagner, who's already full of rage all the time. And then you have all these unresolved issues between him and his wife, Natalie, under the backdrop of now she's flirting with Christopher Walken, and then throw in all the booze.
The ocean is fun. It's great. Your wife should be acting more.
Yeah, it's a wonder that any of them
What?
survived that night.
Yeah.
Now let's go to Lana Wood, Natalie's younger sister, who made the Kirk Douglas
called her
allegation.
Looney Lana earlier.
Yeah, well, you're not far off.
She's kooky.
She's a bit like the captain. Through the years, she's made a lot of tabloid runs.
Her story's changed and stuff for her.
It hasn't really changed too much. She's always alleged that Daddy Wagner
But she comes up with new
was
stuff all the
responsible.
time.
Yeah, she's
It's
dropping new bombs.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
like Kirk Douglas was a new bomb in the latest book.
Yeah.
It's like when Tupac dies and he's got records coming out.
Yeah. There's actually a clip of her on Inside Edition from a couple years ago where she was literally homeless.
She was
God.
unhoused.
Yeah.
as they say.
And of course, the Wagners aren't going to help her out because
Hell no.
she has accused the dad.
Well, in that
of
documentary,
murder.
in the documentary, they're like, we hate Lana.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know?
yeah. They really paint her as a kook in the documentary.
Yeah.
Okay. So Lana thinks that Robert had something to do with the death and caused it.
What's her proof, though?
This woman named Marilyn Wayne who told Lana, and she also has told the new investigation team the same thing, but she told Lana one day over lunch that Marilyn had been on a nearby boat that night and heard a woman screaming, "Help me." And then she heard a man's voice saying, like,
Don't help her.
yeah, exactly, like, calm down, that sort of thing.
Cancel that request.
Also, according to Lana, in 1960, Natalie went running to the neighbor's house and said that RJ was going to kill her. She had a red-stained sweater, according to the neighbors. Was that wine?
They don't spill their wine, it seems like.
Yeah, when they drop it, it goes down their throat.
That's real alcohol abuse, is spilling it.
So yeah, that's basically it with Lana. She's often hard pressed for money and she recycles the story every few years, but it's basically the same story that in a fit of rage, Robert Wagner accidentally killed Natalie and pushed her into the water.
So she just goes to publisher and just says, "Hey, I'm kind of broke. I think I have a new angle on my sister. Do you want to, buy another book?"
One guy that took the bait was Dr. Oz. So I have a clip of her on Dr. Oz.
I wouldn't call him a legitimate person in any way. This guy's a dumb fuck.
So here's a recent interview.
I mean, I feel terrible bringing this up, but every time there is a case similar to this, which happens continually, what does everybody say? He would never have done that. He wasn't like that. He was gentle, he was kind. You know what? People cross the line. Sometimes not purposefully, which is why I've always said, people have said to me, do you think it was premeditated? Absolutely not. But it happened. A line was crossed.
If you could see him again, ask him just one more question before it's too late. He's 91 years old.
Yeah.
What would you ask him?
Absolutely nothing, because I don't believe him or trust him anymore. He has, in his own words, in his books, given 3 different stories about what has happened. I really feel that he is not capable.
She's making a lot of sense.
Of simply being truthful.
In her other interviews, she sounds kind of more loony.
Yeah, I know she's really together here.
She's very lucid.
I know what you mean.
She's lucid, Lana.
Like when she was, because when she was homeless, Lana, I can't think of an L word.
Okay.
She was a little more
living on the street, Lana.
A little more. There you go, baddie.
Yeah, maybe she was just more angry and she's in a better place now.
I think she got a good payday for the latest book.
Oh, the Kirk Douglas deal.
Because you guys heard of the book, right?
Well,
I heard the news.
I heard the news.
That came from the book.
I just heard the news.
So her book is getting attention, so it must be selling okay.
Well, if that news came out of that and that kind of went like wildfire, everyone's talking about that. Kirk Douglas.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to present a totally wild blind item version of events.
Remind people what the blind items are.
Blind items are stories pieced together from anonymous sources. Without naming names.
And there's like websites where they're posted sometimes.
Yes. Okay, so now we're going to get into this wild theory. There was too much booze, too many drugs, too much bottled up hostility. Natalie Wood was drunk and angry, and then she was mocking her husband, RJ, rubbing it in his face the time that she caught him doing it with another guy.
You're a cock, you queer.
Yeah. Yes, right.
I'm going to fuck Christopher Walken up on the top of the boat. Yeah.
I love how she's from Boston. And
you're a cock.
So she was threatening to go public with that information, and that, that alone would have definitely destroyed his career and life.
At this time, yeah. Heart to Heart would have been canceled.
So the guest, Christopher Walken, really did leave for bed, though he heard it all happen, as did the worker, Captain Dennis, who was also on board. So it was just the two of them yelling and shoving each other. Natalie retreated indoors, and Robert went after her. When she got back outside, she demanded to be taken home. She said she would call on her lawyer and that he can stay behind. Since the house and money were hers, not sure what that means. It feels like RJ had a lot of money.
Yeah. It sounds like she's telling him that will be the outcome of a divorce.
Yes,
like the money's
exactly.
mine.
Yeah. So RJ obviously is panicking, and he reached to grab her, and then when she pulled away, she slipped and fell into the water. Daddy Wagner could have saved her right there, but he started mocking her as she was screaming for help and yelling from the water. He continued taunting her, and then the guest, Christopher Walken, came to see what was happening and tried to help, just like he tried to intervene in the argument earlier and defend Natalie. And so then the husband, Robert Wagner, told Chris that she's just trying to get attention. She's playing hysterical and does this all the time. So don't mind her. And that she can save herself just fine. And so she continued out there in the cold water, screaming for several minutes, and the captain, Dennis Verne, had been yelling to her that he'd help her. And so now the 3 men are arguing. And then they realize that she wasn't screaming anymore. So Daddy Wagner panics, and they all go out to try to find her. Walken now demands to call for help or to be taken home. RJ threatens him and says, you're part of this now too.
Oh boy.
And so then Daddy Wagner sits outside for hours and continues drinking and crying. They realize how much deep shit they're in. So now they have to get their story straight. If one goes down, they all go down.
So is this your hot theory? I'm sorry.
This is the blind item.
You have a short memory.
I do. Just to keep our listeners and because time flies. Okay.
Anyway, and so now the cover-up begins, and there's tons of leaks in their stories, but anytime a discrepancy pops up, they just stick together. And so then the powers that be were reminded that they were elected officials and to stop digging because it won't bring her back. But the blind item ends saying, the truth will come out. Always. All right, so that's a wild
Not
theory.
always.
I mean, I don't know how wild it is. I think that is probably closest to the truth. If Christopher Walken and the other dude knew she was drowning and they still went back in the boat, it's like, that is just some cowardly shit.
Mm-hmm. It's cowardly shit no matter what in any of their scenarios because they didn't call the Coast Guard for over 2 hours after she went missing.
Yeah.
Daddy Wagner, I'm going to stop saying that. RJ, I'm going to stop saying that. Robert says he called, the restaurant and the patrolman, but that's all saving face.
Yeah.
Where in his head did he think it was possible that in her state she was gonna get back to that restaurant? And what's she gonna fucking do there?
No, I know
Anyway,
exactly.
It's ridiculous.
The first thought would be like, oh God, if she tried to get to the shore, she
Yeah.
probably wouldn't have made
She's
it.
done. Yeah, you're
so
not
we gotta
calling-
call the Coast Guard first rather than call the restaurant.
The restaurant. What?
Yeah.
And they're all drunken messes, let's be honest.
Right.
I do believe that part of it is blacked out.
Yeah.
And then there's one more case update in Natalie Wood, the complete biography by that true crime author Suzanne Finstead. The updated version of the biography contains some new information. To put it in context, this is considered the official biography of Natalie Wood. It's unbiased.
Not like that documentary, which is a fucking piece of shit.
No, that was totally biased.
It's absurd.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
this is just a biography.
So, Daddy, when you didn't kill Mom and you were just
Yeah.
being a good guy on the boat, what were you thinking at that moment?
Yeah, when the main interviewer of a documentary is talking to a person of interest in a murder and calls him daddy.
Yeah, Errol Morris is never calling Robert McNamara daddy in that war documentary.
My theory with that is that whole documentary and the accompanying book she made for it, Natasha Gregson Wagner.
Yeah.
And it's just a reminder, Daddy Wagner's not her biological daddy. It's Daddy Gregson that's her biological
but
daddy.
she seems to hold way more allegiance to Daddy Wagner.
So, who has...
I don't know why we keep saying this. We sound
Who's got
crazy.
the bank account?
Yeah.
Yeah, who's got the bank account?
Oh.
I think that she wants his inheritance. And so she made this documentary to
I'm
get
on
the
your
moolah.
side. See?
Yeah.
Are you saying those Lost Highway residuals aren't paying her enough and she needs more money?
The urban legend paycheck she
Yeah.
gets
That would probably
in
be
the
the
mail.
biggest. That'd be the biggest one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Wasn't the James Toback movie, Two Girls
yeah,
and a
Two
Guy?
Girls and a Guy.
Which 2 people saw.
Yeah.
The guy didn't even see it.
Yeah. Just the 2 girls saw it.
2 girls, a guy in a pizza place. No. It's different. It's a movie.
So, yeah, that's my hot theory on the Natalie Wood documentary.
Yeah. Daddy Wagbucks.
Back to the biography.
He's
Back-
91. He's gonna die soon.
Yeah.
So that money's got to go somewhere.
So, the complete biography by Suzanne Finstead, unbiased. She believes Robert Wagner killed Natalie Wood, hands down.
Wow.
And she notes that the subsequent investigation was almost non-existent, which is true.
Yeah.
Some things that were revealed in the book, Natalie believed the dolls in her bedroom when she was a kid were real and spoke to her.
Well, that's her mom getting.
Yeah, her mom really disturbed her throughout her entire
did a
life.
number on her. That's why she did all the analysis.
The dolls will speak to you.
Yeah, and
These dolls are real.
other people. She creeped other people out because that Mark Crowley guy, the playwright who wrote Boys in the Band,
Yeah.
he said that at the funeral, the mom came up to him and said, if you would have been on, that's my Russian accent that didn't work.
That's good.
If you would have been on the boat,
Better than my walking.
essentially, if you had gone with them on that trip that Thanksgiving weekend, like, remember he was invited to, then Natalie would still be alive.
Is all your fault.
Yeah.
You killed my daughter by lack of
By being 300 miles away.
Yep. So, yeah, that's
What a fucking asshole.
nice lady. And Finstead, the author, was given access to the murder book from the LA Sheriff's Department, which is the official record of the death investigation.
That sounds such an awful book.
Let me see the murder book.
And
I'd like to take out the murder book.
yeah, Finstead comes up with 3 new witnesses. One is a confidential source who she also put in touch with one of the investigators into the reopened case. And that source had info that Christopher Walken had heard the fight between Natalie and Robert that night, and that he had told a friend not long afterwards that Robert pushed her.
Wow.
And this is a credible source, according to this author.
I believe that now. I think I believe that Robert did some shit
Yes.
he shouldn't have done.
And then the other 2 witnesses were there for the autopsy. They were present. One of them is a photographer, and he took photos of her body for the coroner's office. He observed significant wounds to her head, which indicates that there was a violent fight.
Wow.
And then there's one more witness.
Let's hear it.
He was an intern at the LA County Coroner's Office at the time. He saw the suspicious bruising on Wood, and when he told that coroner, Dr. Noguchi, about it, Noguchi told him, quote, "Some things are better left unsaid."
What
End
the
quote.
hell, dude? And then he writes a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, good.
There was definitely a cover-up at the coroner's office.
Yeah.
And then one last thing from author Suzanne Finstead. She calls the whole thing a Chekhovian tragedy, referring to Anton Chekhov, the Russian writer.
Uncle Vanya.
So this whole thing is a Chekhovian tragedy with no resolution short of a confession.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what's unclear? Any final questions?
What's unclear? If he killed her before or after he threw her in the water.
Let's not forget about the bladder. Her bladder was full, indicating that she was dead when she hit the water.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be drowning that killed her. The bladder is kind of like the blood that was found all over the OJ crime scene. It's pretty damning evidence.
Yeah, it's the smoking gun.
The smoking bladder.
Yeah, I think that by their own official accounts, things got mad cray.
As the children say.
Yes, I'm trying to relate to the
kids.
children.
Yeah.
And it turned into this horrible nightmare.
I will say this. This is my hot theory here. He went down there to give her a piece of his mind.
Yeah.
And they kind of started like fighting back and forth because she probably went after him. She's hammered.
Mhm.
She's on drugs and stuff. And then she slipped and hit her head and then fell into the water. His story is that she fell into the water and she fell in on her own. And
I think it's a ridiculous thing to crawl down the ladder just to go to the side of the boat that's closest to the dinghy to have an argument. I don't think they were ever right next to the dinghy. I think she got thrown overboard after he beat the shit out of her.
Oh.
I have trouble with this whole dinghy thing as well, because the night before, she and the captain went to the shore to stay at a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
She would have alerted the captain that she wanted to go to shore again.
Yeah.
And they would have gone to shore.
Take me.
So for her to take the boat herself is ridiculous.
Well, but RJ could have brought something up like saying, hey, you fucked that captain last night. You did this and that. It would made her less likely to go to him again for help.
So did Robert take her down in the dinghy and then push her into the water from there? What accounts for the marks on the dinghy? Or were they there already and it looks like they were involved that night?
Yeah, they could have been there already. I mean, she would have had like paint or something or like some sort of clippings from the dinghy under her nails if that was the case.
But they also didn't, that wasn't
Test
part
for
of
anything.
the coroner's report, the fingernails.
Yeah, that could have been there from before.
Yeah.
Let's put the death aside. How insane is it they took that weekend together? Christopher Walken and Natalie Wood and
Yeah.
Robert Wagner.
Just an insane grouping of people.
that should not be grouped together because of all the hostility and all the tension and all the
I think she fed off that a little
booziness.
bit. Like, I don't think Robert did. I think Natalie fed off kind of that weirdness and stuff, and like just throwing people together. You saw her group of friends, like, you know, she had a bunch of people just hanging around her all the time.
Yeah.
My thing with Walken too is like, even selfishly, if you knew she was drowning or knew she was in trouble, why would you not go save her? You're in the middle of filming a movie with this person. Like, this is your meal ticket at this point. Why not make sure that she's okay?
Wait, so you're saying he heard the drowning even?
No, I'm saying that's why I think he didn't, because selfishly, you're going to be like, that's my fucking co-star. I got to save that person. Not only is she my friend, she fucking invited me onto this trip from hell, but this is someone that is going to make sure I see a paycheck.
I think booze, weird Hollywood people that don't really know each other very well, and boats and choppy water do not mix well.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all. And if you're in a love triangle, don't take it out to sea.
Yeah. Keep it on the mainland.
Hey.
But yeah, what
it's our best advice.
Keep it on the mainland, folks.
In summary, what we know for sure is that these 4 people went out on the yacht on Catalina Island, and they were dysfunctional at best as a group, and they drank a hell of a lot, and Natalie ended up dead, and nobody has been that helpful ever since that was there in understanding what happened exactly.
All very convenient.
So that's pretty much the case.
And Robert Wagner, you might be getting arrested soon.
Yeah. Keep your door wide open.
Because I'm coming.
And I'm arresting you. Citizen's arrest, buddy.
You might be spending your 92nd birthday in the slammer. You know what would be funny is if Natasha Gregson Wagner didn't end up getting a cent.
Yeah,
in the inheritance.
The ultimate fuck
great,
you.
Yeah.
Then she comes out with a sequel called Daddy Did It.
Yeah.
I changed my mind.
My dead daddy did it.
Yeah, 10 reasons why I changed my mind. Or 10 million reasons why I changed my mind.
And her and the captain and Lana go on tour.
Yeah. Yeah. What would that tour consist of? I'd love it. I'd buy tickets. Yeah, they're opening for Great White.
Yeah, there you go. So, all right.
That's the story, and we're sticking to it.
Thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
I hope I shed some light onto this
If you're
story.
still out there, don't forget to follow us. Where are we, guys?
On Twitter.
At DiePod 2021.
Yup.
On YouTube.
Death and Entertainment. Instagram. Death and Entertainment. That's it.
All right, thanks, guys. Alejandro has his hand up as if he's waiting for something else that's not going to come. So we're going to say good night, good luck, and don't go dying on us.
I was trying to think of something profound to say to end the 40th anniversary special about Natalie Wood's mysterious death.
Go ahead.
And
We'll give you the floor.
Got nothing.
Don't go swimming in the dock.
Dock water.
Bye.
You have just heard
A true Hollywood murder mystery.
I have never seen anything like this before.
The movies, Broadway, music, television, all of it.
A place that manufactures nightmares.
Okay, everybody, that's a wrap.
Good night. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon.